So just in case this is the first video that you're watching from this channel, I just want to make sure that you're aware that it is ancient paganism. It's not modern paganism. There is a difference. Ancient paganism basically just means that it's the wisdom, the knowledge of our ancestors, and by that I mean, like, you know, really truly pagan, like before everything crumbled and broke. And modern paganism is basically only the past 150 years. Ancient paganism is like tens of thousands of years, you know. So modern paganism is kind of like the end result of a game of telephone. Modern paganism, you know, especially during witch hunt era and things, the further down the line that you get, the initial message is more likely to change the further down the line you get. And there's all these gaps and holes in the message, and eventually a lot of somebodies try to assume what they think fits in those gaps, and the assumption sometimes ends up being wrong. So sometimes you get lucky and the initial message is basically the same at the other end, but other times it is turned on its head, different, night and day difference. And so ancient paganism is just more so that full whole picture, before everything was forgotten, before a lot of stuff was lost, and bringing back that wisdom and knowledge in a complete way. Now, a lot of things that, if you've been looking online or something and trying to find out what the totem stands for, a lot of things that I'm about to say, it will parallel. So with this particular totem, raven totem, a lot of things that I will say is going to parallel with the more modern paganism beliefs. But, big but, there will be times probably where you're sitting there going, really, I didn't know that, you know, really, that's the way it is, because I thought, you know. So you just have to kind of be prepared for that. But I'm going to go ahead and talk about the real basic stuff first. So raven totem is a creature of the west and northwest. It is a very big visionary totem, and it also is a creature of the night, of the moon. It's also the way that you have to realize the way that I say things is different than ways that a lot of people say things. I will never talk about dark and light being good or bad. Dark and light is, in my definition, the literal elemental, you know, darkness, the literal elemental light. Okay, so raven is that night dark energy. Now, let's put it this way, you're either made up of dark, light, or a mixture of both. And raven is one of those totems that is pure one or the other. Raven is pure dark energy. And that is one of the things that might differ from modern paganism. But I'm telling you right now, if you truthfully observe, I invite you to truthfully observe with non-assumption, by being hollow. If you even know how to do that, truthfully observe. Because any of you that think that it's got light energy in it have not truthfully observed the raven totem. And I'll explain why in a minute. But first, let's continue on just the general things that raven does. Okay, so raven totem in general is what we call dark protector and a dark cleanser. The way that raven cleanses is actually quite unique. A lot of people believe that the only way to cleanse something, and again, this is modern paganism, the only way to cleanse something is with the white light thing, light energy. You hear it really all the time. People overdo and overuse. I mean, almost in everything they do sometimes they're like, I come with pure light, you know. It is ludicrous to think that light is the only way to cleanse something, because raven is one of the most powerful cleansing totems that I know ever to exist. But the way that raven cleanses is through darkness. So that the way that raven cleanses is very, very different. typically Raven will seek you when, and it's not always a literal physical shift, okay? But it will seek you when there is a taintedness within you that needs cleansing. And Raven is there not only to help that taintedness die, but to actually cleanse you of it and then shield you from it ever happening again. So sometimes Raven comes just as basically a bringer of mercy, or an actual death and literal death and rebirth, right? Where your body's burnt out and basically, your entire body needs to die in order for you to shift to the next phase of your existence, whether that be in the spirit realm for a while, or whether it be that you get reborn again with a new life. But typically, most often than not, Raven's not there to say you're going to die. Raven's there because she's actually trying to prevent you from dying. There is a piece of you, usually it can be directly related to a chakra imbalance. There's a pretty dominant piece of you that is tainting the rest of you. And if you allow it to continue to live and grow and thrive, if you keep feeding that tainted piece of you, it will kill you. Raven is there to help allow that tainted piece of you to die so that the rest of you can live. Raven helps it die and then cleanses you of anything you are not, any kind of taintedness that really is not a part of you. And then after that, Raven does the shielding magic, which shields you from any negativity that might trigger something like that happening again. But in order for Raven to do this, you would need to 100% be willing to actually let it die, or there's no use. Raven can't really do anything unless you yourself are willing to let Raven kill that taintedness in you. So the shielding aspect is what most people flip-flop. Well, I won't say most. I've heard it too many times to in modern paganism, what they think. I've heard it too many times to think it's just a few people out there believing this, unfortunately. And this is going back to finally what I was talking about of Raven being pure dark energy. Raven has one of the strongest immense shield that I have ever seen. And this is why. Typically, a creature of pure dark or pure light, they if they're even in close proximity to one another, it feels like nails on chalk, much less a creature of darkness existing surrounded by light energy. I like to put it this way: it's like a bowl of ice that you can literally throw into the fire and it refuses to melt. Raven, by all means, should melt, but she doesn't, because she's got this immense shield with her. She has the literal ability to bring the dark into the light, to bring the night with her into the day. And so that shielding keeps the day energy, the light energy, from, she's like she doesn't even feel it. She's completely immune. And the same thing with light energy. If you're 100% pure light energy, surrounded by darkness, that is why nothing of light, is awake at night. It sleeps at night. Nothing of night is awake during the day, usually. But raven actually is awake both. It can be awake both night and day, long into the day and long into the night. So basically, even though night and darkness is raven's home, it can venture out temporarily into the day for long spurts at a time. That allows raven to actually do cleansing and shielding and protection magic even in the day. Now, raven is usually a scavenger, but sometimes it actually does hunt. And so sometimes the reason for raven venturing into the day is to hunt down something of ill intent and become an actual warrior at that point, not just a protector. But typically, raven is doing mostly that shielding and cleansing magic. Raven is allowed to exist during the day without any ill effects because of that immense shielding. So to raven, negativity is, well, I won't say one aspect of negativity to anything of dark energy, and vice versa, okay, would be that sun energy. So imagine being able to take the moon with you, being surrounded by the sun, but taking the moon with you everywhere you go. And because that shield is there, you can see the sun, but you never really feel the ill effects from it. It is like nails on chalk. If you've ever watched bees are pure day energy, okay, pure light energy. If you've ever watched bees during an eclipse where the moon takes over the sun, that kind of eclipse where the moon blocks the sun, that you'll see them start to literally like spin around in circles, either like they're confused or maybe even actually, starting to seize and convulse. And then as soon as it gets back to normal again, they fly off and they're fine. That was what would normally happen if you tried to mix, something together that shouldn't be. But because of that immense shielding, it's a unique harmony there. I say she, but really the totem can be either or. There's a lot of nurturing, mothery energy to raven totem, and that's why a lot of times I use she for raven totem. But honestly, I have a habit of using he too, just at random, by accident. But any totem can be either or. It really can. So I just wanted to mention that really quickly. But so what people flip-flop is they want to say that raven actually does have sun energy within her, which is not true at all. And they say that raven brings the day into the night instead of the night into the day. So they've literally flip-flopped it, and that, in my opinion, is because of the light issue with the being way too heavily influenced by Abrahamic belief and not even realizing it. Because you cannot bring the sun into the night if you are only dark energy. The night is your home. That is where you live. Raven is just visiting the day. Raven's home is at night. So raven would not bring any day back to night with her. Raven is allowed to be herself, surrounded by like kin at night. Raven only visits the day. That's very important. So it is only bringing the night into the day, never the other way around.